Welcome to Lesson 2, Bare Necessities. This lesson will be on some items you should have prior to your first trip. Do you need them all? Absolutely not. This section is on dog bone adapters, which depends on what kind of electrical requirement you have for your RV. 15 versus 30 amp versus 50 amp. Take, for example, about dog bone adapters. If you own a 30 amp RV and arrive at a campground where there's only 50 amp receptacles, and yes, those exist, you will want what is in the center photo. So you can plug your 30 amp RV into the dog bone adapter and then the dog bone adapter into the campground receptacle that's 50 amp. They come in different configs, as you can see in the picture. If you have a 50 amp RV, you need a 50 amp female to a male 30 amp adapter for those times when you're at a 30 amp only electrical pedestal. Keep in mind, you cannot run your entire 50 amp RV on a 30 amp pedestal receptacle. Take a look in the book RVing for Newbies, Chapter 9, Advanced Course on Electricity for explanation. If you have a 30 amp RV, you need a 30 amp female to a male 50 amp adapter for those times when you're at a 50 amp only electrical pedestal. That's your center picture. And last but not least, if you have a 15 amp RV, you need a 15 amp female to a male 30 amp adapter for when you're at a 30 amp only electrical pedestal and have a 15 amp plug, normally found on pop-ups and small teardrop trailers. Electrical protection devices. These are usually they come in both a 30 amp and a 50 amp version of electrical management systems, also known as EMS, by different manufacturers. So what is the difference between an EMS and a surge protector? Surge protectors will protect your RV from an electrical surge, also known as too many volts, whereas an EMS will protect you just like a surge protector will for too many volts, but it also protects your RV from low voltage. So here's an example of when low voltage can happen. You're at a campground middle of the summer. You're running your air conditioner just like everybody else. So many amps are being drawn by everyone across the electrical lines, the voltage begins to drop. Once the threshold of too low a voltage is hit, and that number can be found in the documentation for your particular EMS, your air conditioner motor starts to work harder. Its motor is struggling with the low voltage, and the EMS says, "This is too low. I'm shutting down the electricity to your RV to protect your air conditioner motor and to keep it from burning up." So I highly recommend an EMS over a surge protector, but it ultimately is your call, which you purchase. This in the picture here is the Hughes Autoformer type for both the 50 and a 30 amp version. This is under the Bare Necessities Electrical Systems Protection Devices. This is your 50 amp versions. This is both an EMS on the left by Progressive Industries and a surge protector 50 amp by Progressive Industries also. Next up we have 30 amp versions. Progressive Industries EMS 30 amp and their Progressive Industries surge protector of 30 amp. I run the EMS for my RV as a 30 amp. I run Progressive Industries EMS 30 amp. It has taken care of me very well up to this point. Okay, let's talk about non-contact voltage testers. These are also known as NCVTs. This is one of those tools that can be used to test a campground pedestal before you touch it and plug your RV into it. And that concept will be covered in this course in Lesson 4. Volt multimeters. You will want one of these. I can't tell you how many times you're going to want to check the battery voltage and other things. There's a less expensive one on the left, and the one on the right is more expensive but can do more things. The one on the right has a clamp, can measure amps, has a built-in non-contact voltage tester, and can do temperature measurements. One other item that will be covered later in Lesson 4 will be the concepts of inverters, which come in two types, pure sine wave and modified sine wave. And what I find interesting is the heavy-duty multimeter on the right will be able to give you an accurate voltage out of either a modified or a pure sine wave, so you won't be able to tell other than maybe the label on it which kind of an inverter you have. But the one on the left as you'll see I talk about in a video, you'll be able to use the cheapo one to be able to tell if it's a modified or a pure sine wave inverter. Fuses. You will want a variety of fuses, but base this entirely on the fuses you have in your electrical panel box. So go take a look, see what all kinds of fuses. There are some RVs that have exclusively 15 amp fuses and nothing else. And then there's other ones that have a wide variety, 15s, 10s, 20s, keeping in mind that the concept of fuses is to protect the size of the wiring from the fuse to the device. So you never replace a fuse of a particular amperage with a larger amperage. Meaning, do not replace a 15 amp fuse with a 20 amp fuse because it continues to blow. You risk wiring overheating and potentially causing a fire. Find and figure out the two fuses that are part of your converter. They are known as reverse polarity fuses. In lesson 4, we will talk about wiring colors and the nightmare of confusion. And I'll explain why these two fuses are important, how they can easily be blown, and you want to carry spares for them. This is an example of a typical polarity GFCI tester. It can be used to test your GFCI outlets to see that they're wired up correctly, the voltage, and it has a button to trip the GFCIs, just like you'd have the button on the receptacles. There are other models out there, not as fancy, but this one will show you also the volts in your electrical receptacles. This is the best book out there when it comes to RV electricity. Mike Sokol has a Facebook group. He's also on Substack.com, posting electrical stuff on a regular basis. I highly recommend you buy this book because it covers a lot about RV electrical safety, the goods, the bads, the things that can go wrong. It's part of the No Shock Zone publication. Mike's a good guy. Water stuff. Get yourself a potable water hose, a water filter. Your RV might have an onboard filter system, but if not, get one of these, and then for sure, definitely get a water pressure regulator. It doesn't need to be this one that you see on the slide, but make sure you're using one, as some campgrounds can have very high water pressure at the spigot. You don't want to go above 50 psi in most cases for your RV plumbing. You don't want to start blowing out the plumbing. You will need a Stinky Slinky, also known as a sewer hose, for dumping your black and gray tanks. There are many types, some expensive, some less so. More things on the list of bare necessities. Electrical tape, always a good thing. I carry one black roll and one red roll, and we will discuss why in lesson 4 in basic electricity, why I do that. Flashlights. You can never have too many flashlights. These ones here have magnets on the bottom. They work out really well. You can stick them to anything metallic and they'll be there when you need them. The last but not least thing on the list here is an electronic level. If you have an RV absorption fridge, meaning it will run on propane, you need to make sure your RV is relatively level, because absorption fridges heat to cool your freezer and your fridge. So most of them, if you have less than 3 degrees off center, front to back, left to right, you can call it good. Some of them go left to right, maybe as high as 6 degrees, or front to back 6 degrees. What I do is I just make a decision and go, if everything, when I stick this thing in the freezer, is less than 3 degrees off, left to right, front to back, we're golden. This has worked for me for 16 years with those kinds of fridges with no problem whatsoever. Besides, if you've got that many degrees off, you're going to be rolling out of your bed, so you want to make sure you're as close to level as possible. Power screwdriver or drill, definitely a lifesaver when doing maintenance on your RV, but keep in mind, most RV screws are square heads. So you will want to pick up some number 2 square head bits. In some of your RVs, you may have smaller ones which are number 1 square head screws. So I usually keep 3 or 4 of each in my box, just in case they get borrowed and or walk away. Tape measure, another good item to keep in your RV. You want to know how far your slides go out. Measure them, write it down, so when you pull into the campground spot, you can pull out your tape measure and go, I'm too close to this pedestal. I can't open my slide. Tape measures, good things. At a minimum, have a tire gauge double head type to reach those inner and outer tires if you got dual tires on your RV. Now you can also step up your game and purchase a tire pressure monitoring system, a TPMS, to be able to see the tire pressure of all your tires and the temperature of each one also. I run that tire pressure monitoring system on my RV. It's got 2 tires in the front, 4 in the back. Works fantastic. Connects up as an app to your phone. Get yourself a generic type of toolkit of some sort. Make sure it has some sockets, wrenches, just generic tools, pliers. Make sure you have all of those kind of things, because you never know when you're going to have to do maintenance, and maintenance seems to come at a regular basis. Last but not least, infrared thermometer. I get one of these so I can measure the inside temperature of my freezer and my fridge, and you can also use it to check your tires and the temperature of them when you pull into, say, a rest stop or whatever.